Name is Gertrude Francis DeShield. I'm the daughter of the late Leroy E. Francis and Elaine Holder Francis. My grandparents were Catherine Ure Holder and Samuel Holder. They were my grandparents. Tell you about my grandmother. Well, she was my best friend, but she was a wonderful person, wonderful, loving, and caring person. And she loved me. I was her handbag, but very caring, always concerned about the other people. She always had the money, change sitting down. So if anybody came around and needed help, she would help them or give them rice or give them palm oil. So she was very good like that. Very nice woman, very nice. Mama had a hard time in Crozierville in the beginning because she came from Carisburg to Crozierville. So she didn't know many people there. Sammy had already married before and had children. So she was kind of a stranger. After my grandfather died, because they had a rough time too in the relationship, but after he died, she suffered a lot. She suffered a lot before he died, and after he died, she suffered a lot in terms of taking care of the children. She actually had 12 kids, but 7 to live. All of the others died. And so taking care of them, she said they were well off when he was living, but after he died, things became so rough. It was just unbearably rough. She had to send the kids out to live with people. I think Uncle Burley Barkley took Uncle Burley, President Barkley, under his wings, and Hoover went to Monrovia. He took his other younger siblings, under his wings. And then she was there making quilts. And she made that for a living. She loved it. And she used to sell some of those quilts to Tubman. He bought most of her quilts, in fact. So whenever she was preparing her quilt, she knew where that money was coming from. So that's what she did for a living. She was what we call a housewife. And after her husband died, she was just there with her kids. And she said the thought about getting married to somebody else, she couldn't think about it because she didn't want anyone to treat her kids bad. So when my grandfather died, she was 45 years old. And she stayed that way until she died. My favorite memory of her is sitting on we call it the pizer, the porch. And she would lay her chair back and she would talk to Jesus as though Jesus was in front of her. I remember when I must have been about 5 or so. And she would say to me, Gertrude, Jesus loved me. Oh. And I thought, well, Jesus just loved her once. So I figured to myself, what do I need to do for Jesus to love me the way he loves her? So I said, can I give him a cow so he can love me too? She said, no, you don't need to give him a cow. So she always sat in that chair, leaned back and talked to Jesus. She had a personal relationship with him that I did not understand, but when I grew up, I understood the love she had for Jesus. Yeah. So that's my favorite memory of her. Going to bed, quilting, sitting in the chair, it was always Jesus. It was always Jesus. And she loved to sing. She was always off tune. So she would walk in the yard, or in fact, she stopped going to church for a while because when she got to church, everybody's singing, right? And she's gone off shouting, singing, and she's totally off tune. And so she would walk around the yard singing. what a friend we have in Jesus or whatever. And she's totally off note, but she really didn't care. She just enjoyed her singing. So those are some of the funny things. And she loved to dance. So I used to laugh at her dancing the Pata Pata by Miriam Makeba. That was her favorite song. And she would enjoy that dance. And I would laugh. I thought it would be the funniest thing ever when she started dancing, and she just enjoyed it. So you laughing at me, eh? Yeah. Going to school down the road, where cousin Aretta was the principal down there, and I think Mr. Deeks, old man Deeks, was at the school. So going to school and coming back with friends. I remember one time there was a creek behind the school, and Francis Port and somebody else was there, and we went and jumped in the water. Oh my God. And my grandmother found out. That was the first time I got a beating. And she actually gave me a good whooping. But that was the first and last time she ever did it. And after she did, she told me sorry. So I never did go back in the water again, ever. Yeah, so those were some, but I enjoyed, I think the life we had in Crozierville was different. There was a closeness with the relationship especially with us, going to school, Elma and Juanita, Ella Luera, but there was a closeness that we shared that we still have today. So those are some of the times in Rhoda, Kipard, and Genevieve and all of them. Rhoda them had a sister. I can't remember her name now, but there was a close Josephine, I think it was. I remember when Josephine got her release. That was another thing that happened. I just saw this girl running up and down the road. I got religion. I got religion. I got religion. I kept saying to myself, my thought, I used to think as a child, I kept thinking, now she do it. I was like, I got religion, I got religion. So I figured to myself, I said, one day I will start doing it too. I got religion, yeah. And so there was a closeness. And even with the grandparents like Mama and Ella Ties and Omar Kipar and Joe Kipar and what's the other lady name? My Nancy. There's another lady of Lulu that was up on the hill somewhere. A typical day for us in Crozierville was kind of quiet. You had all the other children walking up and down the streets. You had the Kipards who will go over up the hill to you all. It was a quiet, and we had Andrusha and Mama, who really were the older people. A lot of the parades that we used to go to, we enjoyed Good Friday because we could beat Judas. They would sit him in a chair, and I think at 6 o'clock, at some time, either 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock, we would grab him and beat him. So that was an occasion for us. And another one, I think it was either Flag Day, which was the 24th. There was a big field. I remember we would go on with the parade and all of that. But our typical day was quiet. We're very close close-knitted people in that community. Everybody loved each other. Everybody knew each other. And all of us who grew up from that time, there's a bond. Look at Facebook, you wonder, how many persons really know me when I was a child? And you can almost begin to count on your hands with everything that's going on. But a typical day was quiet. It was quiet for us. Crozierville is a quiet town anyway. Mama loved cooking, and she loved baking. And I think the highlight of the day was putting the bread on top of her head and sending him out to go and carry the bread out. But she loved cooking and baking, and I think I took some of that from her. You know, I love cooking, not so much at the baking, but I love cooking. And she cooked, I think I have the same problem today. She cooked a lot every day. And you would think somebody was coming to the house, but she had a thing in her mind that somebody may just stop by and she wanted to have food. So every day there was food on the table, and every Sunday there was an array of food on the table. So anybody who stopped by, there was food on that table. She made sure of that. So that was the kind of person that she was. So we always had food. She always cooked. She always loved her bucks butter and coffee. So those are some of the things you know, that we remember from her. They will put the bread in the pot, in a big pot. They will put the bread in the big pot and then put the iron top on top of it and put the coal on top of the pot, the pot top, and that would bake it. I took that idea, I think it was 1987 or 1988. I baked my turkey. I dug the ground. I dug a big hole in the ground, and I put the banana leaf around the dirt in the ground, and I put the turkey pot, the turkey pan in the ground. And then I took zinc and just put a lot of coal and fire on top of it. And that turkey came out so good. It just being, my grandmother made me happy. Her love made me happy, even when I was older, even when I got married, even when I was dating. You know, my boyfriend who became my husband, he knew I loved her so much, he would take me every weekend to see her, you know, and so just being around her made me happy. And a lot of people thought that I was spoiled because she had such close range on me. But I think that was because she had an only girl, and the only girl died. So she was just afraid, you know, that something may happen to me. But we were happy, you know, with us who were there, you, Rhodey, you know, Genevieve. Ella Lou and Juanita didn't live in Crozierville, but they were there on holidays. You know, Charlotte and everybody, May Catherine, Ella Lou's mother, who was there. So we were just a happy bunch. You know, everybody got along. It was very rare that you had people fussing, you know, seeing families fussing. We didn't see that. Maybe, I know they had it before, you know, before we came along, there was some stuff. But because Mama caught a hard time transitioning from Carisburg to Crozierville, she had a real hard time. But when we came around, everything had mellowed out, you know, and just being in Crozierville made me happy. And even when I go to Liberia and I just go to Crozierville and just bring a chair and sit in the yard, I'm the happiest person. I mean, it makes me, when I think about it, in all of my dreams, that's where I dream I'm at. I'm always dreaming that I'm in Crozierville. So those were the happy times. Just being there was happy for me. It's a happy thought. Plus, she had, like I said, she had 12 children, 7 to live, and then her daughter, of course, died. But my uncles, they're growing up because their father died at a very young age. And Mama was 47 years old when he died. And so life became kind of difficult for her because she had 6 boys, you know, and 1 girl to raise single-handedly. Being just a home mom, a home-based mom making quilt. And I don't think she had started making quilt, you know, after his death. I think it was a little bit later. So my uncle Fido and my uncle Burley stayed with the Barclay, with President Barclay. President Barclay took him in. And my Uncle Fido became the father for all of them, and then later on, he went abroad, and Uncle Burley went abroad, and Hoover took on the other boys, by himself, in Monrovia. And I think that because of their father dying at an early age and left them, they became men very quickly, on their own. And then, of course, they had their sister to die at a very early age. So that was like a blow for them. Why they were young men trying to make life, then this only sister dies, So they became men very quickly. And I think a lot of people didn't understand my Uncle Hoover. My Uncle Hoover was very particular about a car that he had. The plate was HHH. And before you get in the car, he will wipe under your feet before you sat in the car. But he was so particular about his things. That's because he worked so hard, he figured, And when he got this car, this Thunderbird, it was a beautiful car. But he really, when you couldn't, with that car, you couldn't just get in, it was clean. From the day he had it until the day he died, it was smelling brand new. And when the coup happened, in fact, the car story with the coup is that, and that's my Uncle Hoover's story. When the coup happened, Kuumba had sent some people there, or he went there with the people to get the car. So when they got to the house with the guns, they told him to bring the keys. He said, wait, I'm coming. Because he used to stammer. He said, one minute, let me go put on my coat suit. He went, put on his coat suit, his socks, his shoes, he dressed up, and he came and he laid down behind the car. He gave them the key. He said, now you can ride over me and carry the car. And then the people say, you didn't know that in there, crazy. You brought me to this man. And that's how they left the car. But when I was 7, I think I must have been about 7 years old, they wanted me to be a boy so much, he put me in this pickup. He prepped my feet up in the pickup and put me in the pickup. He was teaching me how to drive. And how was he teaching? Where? Down the hill of Davidtown Hill. And here I am screaming in the car. And he said, will you hold a brace? Do I know? My grandmother was screaming, Hoover, you want to kill the people, child? You want to? But he was trying to teach me how to drive. One time he put me in the tractor, showing me how to pull the gear with the tractor as small as I was. They really wanted me to be a boy. But that was his story. My Uncle Donald's story, my Uncle Hoover and my Uncle Donald really paid a lot of attention to me when I was growing up. And my Uncle Donald used to teach me my ABCs. My 2 uncles, Burley and Fido, they were away. And Franklin, they were away for the longest that I knew of. So it was just Hoover, Donald, and Emmett, that was around most of the time there. But I tell my kids, every weekend they were with their mother. Every holiday they were with their mother. And my aunts were my mothers because I had not seen my father. So my uncles were my fathers and my aunts were my mothers. They were the ones who, my Auntie Farcia was the one who put girdle on me, who, brought me my bra to wear, those kinds of things. They were the ones who would tell you how to wash your panties, and all those things. And so they were my mothers, and my uncles, I look at them as my fathers, even today, my Uncle Frank, all of them, I looked at them as my father, So my relationship with my uncles is a little bit different from the rest of my cousins. Now, whether or not they have accepted it or they have not accepted it, I don't know how they feel about it in their heart. But Mama did love me a lot. She showed that love, and I don't blame her. Probably I would have done the same because she had only one daughter. You know, I know how I am. My boys say I spoil my daughter, you know, but that's your daughter. That's my only daughter, you know, so I can imagine with her, you know, what it was like. So I think that's what we miss today, where we are. I think we are so separated, even us from Crozierville. Everybody is so into their own stuff. You know, it's not it's only your close knitted family that is family oriented, which it was not like that when we were growing up. It was not like that. We didn't have that. But today, that's how it is. And it's so unfortunate for our kids because they're growing up in a way where and marrying outside of Liberians with other women. They're only interested in their family. We are more inclusive. You know, we're not just one little group, you know, just me and my children and my husband. We're more. We are open to all. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing. And the only way for us to get that back is coming together. That's the only way. There must be some time in a year, one time in a year, where we meet, where we all meet with our children, let them get to know each other. There must be a cookout somewhere, once a year, sometime in the summer where we meet, you know, and make sure that we're inviting people to come, you know, so we can get to know each other. I think if we begin to do that, we could bring that back, but if not, we will lose the essence of what we had in Crozierville. What we could do, we could start with a live Crozierville talk show where we go live on Facebook. Let everybody click in for the live where you can bring people on, you know, and have a live talk. We can try and do it through Zoom, you know, where it's live and people can click in. But you can actually go through Facebook as well, and we can do it live and people come. And that is just for the connection, to bring people on with connection, have somebody taking the names, you know, and just having a conversation, just a talk, you know, about what we want to do, live talking, showing, like some of the pictures. When I saw that house, I said, this is what I need. This is the exact replica I'm looking for, you know, to do something smaller, but have that front porch. Is that front porch that I want. That front porch open where you can sit on a pizer and look outside, you know. That's what, when I saw that the other day, I was like, oh my God, Cherry taking me back, you know. So that was really, really, whoever took those pictures and sent those pictures was really, really good. They used to call her, and she used to say that all the time, the girl that bought the bull off the bridge and call her a hunter for a fight. So she was known for that. So that's how she called herself. And I think she got that because she was a very, very strong woman. I remember whenever something happened, they would call her, like Andrew said, and there was a snake at the house one time, and she went there and grabbed it, I think by the head or whatever. I also remember one time I was under the tree. I was just telling my son, till today, I love the outdoors, but to be under a tree. This thing came and jumped in my dress. And all Mama could say was, okay, could you stand up, stand up? I would grab it. And I kept saying to her, is she real? Is she for real? And she wants me to, and I was jumping all over it, dropped from the tree in the dress like this. I'm like, Jesus. So yeah, I went to convent on the boarding school, and that was the time they used to call me grandma baby, because she was always there. My Uncle Donald always used to bring me hamburgers. So from there, I went to convent, and I got sick with my appendix. And my father said I had to leave right away. So within 3 days, they had put me all together, doctors and everything, and then they sent me to England. And then we got in. Mama, of course, went with me. Um, and when we got there, he said she's not coming back. She's staying for school. And so, first of all, they wanted me to go to Paris. There was a school in Paris that they wanted me to go to, and I said, no, I don't want to go there. Had a tantrum because I didn't want to learn the French. I thought it would be so difficult. So I stayed in England. And the strange thing about it, when I went for my surgery, the doctor who operated on me was at the London clinic, was the doctor who operated on Tubman. So when I was laying down, he had white hair. I will never forget. And he said, you know who I am? I said, no. He said, I'm the doctor that operated on Tubman. And I remember thinking to myself, and Tubman died. So myself, I'm like, Jesus. And when I woke up from the surgery, the people with the baguette one of those ladies came in the hospital and opened the door, and I started screaming, I don't want to be in hell. I don't want to be in hell. The nurses and doctors came, and she just missed the room, but because of the anesthesia and everything, I was still, kind of out of it and thinking I had died and had woken up in hell, but I was actually alive. And my uncle came in. And that's when I learned the word, how to say comfortable. Because in Liberia, we would say comfortable. They said you're comfortable. And we used to say milk. People would pronounce it almost as milk, instead of pronouncing it as milk. So my uncle came to visit me in the hospital. And he said, so how do you feel? I said, oh, he said, you okay? I said, you comfortable? I said, yeah, comfortable. So he said, no, don't say comfortable, say comfortable. And that stuck in my head from that time, learning how to. So I stayed there, went to school, college in California. And then my background is communications, media journalism. And so I've been doing that most of my years. Right now, I'm working in Baltimore with NGO and 2 schools as their marketing director. I have 3 kids about myself, 2 boys and 1 girl with my late husband, Charles, DeShield. And they're all doing very well in their work that they have chosen to do. I can say we learn in life as you grow older, and I'll be 66 next week. Yeah, be 66 next week. So it's exciting. As you grow older, you learn people. And I've come to learn and understand that you really don't have to react to people. And God doesn't judge you by how you think people have treated you. He judges you by how you treat others. How people treat you, he will take care of that. But how you treat others. And so that's what guides me now. Yeah. But if I were to ask him a question, my God, it wouldn't be a question for going through such pain, and I would want to hug him, because he went through such pain, for a mother to see her son going through that, and a son knowing exactly what was going to happen to him, so I would more not ask him a question, but I would thank him. If I was younger, when I was young, I probably would have asked him a question. The healthcare, opening a clinic there, for the people. Because I remember little, they had to put me on somebody's shoulder to walk me to Bensonville, where they had the clinic, the Oshoko clinic, and walk back. And I think that's the only clinic that's there right now. And when I went there the last time, it wasn't functioning as you would want it to. And I think amongst ourselves, we can make it functional. There are ways, there's so many things here that we can get that hospitals and people don't need that we can use, even just getting gloves and syringes and all those things. I mean, once we pull our resources together, those things are easy. And you have the weeks that are there, getting them involved, that if we send the things, we know where it's going to go, so I think it's very important for us to do something. And I think the timing is like yesterday, quite frankly. My goal, hopefully, by the end of the year, is to at least try to put something down, a bungalow or whatever, just something that when I go to Liberia, I go to Crozierville. I don't go anywhere else, but I go to Crozierville, and I think that once we start going, it will make a difference. Even now, people who are there, they have houses, so we can go and say, okay, we're coming. Can we stop at this place? Can we stop at that place? Just so we can get involved with the community and get, to know the people, even if we don't have anything on the ground. But when we go straight to Crozierville, make that our stopping place, whatever we need to get a generator or whatever we need to do to get there, let's organize it, and we'll be there. That's what I think. I mean, I think it can be done. I think it's something we need to do, because that's our home. That is our home. Monrovia is not our home. Crozierville is our home. There is nothing like running up and down that Davidson Hill and coming back and walking up. I mean, for me, it's my excitement even now. I think we need to organize, starting even now, to say, okay, how many persons will, show up for the meeting before we can organize the group. We can start with a Facebook event. I had the idea for the children in Liberia, the merry-go-round. The merry-go-round, when you order it, I think it's like $13,000 for a small one. Those children have no form of recreation. The only thing they do is get the tin cup, put rope on it, they dig the dirt, put it inside, and then they use it for the car and put car tires. I don't know, I've forgotten what they used to use under it. And that's what they use. But very rare, they don't have. And when growing up as a child, you need that. You need that recreational part of you. It's educational also it's something within education. Like I tell my children, the main thing out of education is discipline. All of the things that you learn in school, you don't use it, but the discipline of getting up, the discipline of going to school, studying your lesson, getting there on time, listening to what the teacher is saying, listening to directions, those are all part that builds into our education, including the lesson plan. So just the recreational part of it is so important. And really, that's one of the things in Crozierville then and now that we did not have. There were a lot of us, we had each other, so we used to play the train, trapping, I wrote my letter to we had those games that we would always play on Sunday or Saturday and stuff like that. And then they had the dance. There was a time where we would go down to the school for a dance. Those are the only things we had. But that's all we had. And when we were gathering at that time, there were no lights. There were no lights. That was before the lights came. When the lights came, it was fine. But before the lights, there was nothing. When lights came, I remember, people who had television. I remember specifically here that Jimmy Weeks had his entire compound lit up. Cassius Clay was fighting. And people came to that house. That house to me looked at that time like It was a house from heaven. There were so many lights. It was just, you could hear the generator beating, but Cassius Clay was fighting, and everybody was there that day, to that house. So we need something for the kids. Most of the people in Crozierville, most of the people from Crozierville spoke Pele. A lot of the people in Crozierville spoke Pele. So the interaction with everybody was that's what I was saying. It was more family oriented because they spoke the language, they spoke the Pele, and I think they had the Poorer Society. All my uncles were in the Poorer Society. They all spoke Pele. In fact, Uncle Burley wrote Pele. So they were very well versed in Pele. So the interaction whenever they came to the house was in Pele. And they spoke it. And it wasn't like it was a foreign language, or it was just part of them. So it made it easy in the relationship that they had in Crozierville. If somebody came to the house and wanted rice or something like that, they would be speaking in Pele. And then Mama would tell them to go and get whatever it is, and she would tell whoever in the house there in Pele, and some of the people who stayed with her understood the Pele. So it was easy. It was easy. For me, I can hear it, some of it, but in speaking it, we didn't pick it up. I think in order to change the mindset of the people in the country, it comes through media. It comes through what the people see. A lot of people are not reading anymore. So when you show them pictures of another country in Africa, or if you show them African kids farming, making farms and earning an income from their farming just from one cow, you can show that how they can do that. Help another person to say, oh, wow, if he can do that, I can do that too. So we need those type of things that will change the people mindset.